Hi Maddie, and this is Liz, and today we're going to be talking about the black and white fallacy in the time of World War II. This fallacy is also known as the either-or fallacy or the false dilemma fallacy.
This is the fallacy of leaping from the falsity of one proposition to the truth of an extreme opposite, and it occurs when we limit the number of alternatives available.
An example of this would be the statement, you have to be either a Democrat or a Republican. This is an example of the fallacy because it implies that there are only two parties, when in reality there are other parties like the Green Party that you could be affiliated with.
Other examples is this pin, and it says USA love it or leave it, and that's just saying that you either have to love the US or you should just be leaving because obviously you don't love it, when that's wrong, and you should be able to be entitled to your own opinion and have mixed opinions on things and love some aspects and maybe not love some other parts of it. And then another sign that's just kind of stupid, but it says either you love bacon or you're wrong. Obviously, I'm vegetarian, she's vegetarian. We're not necessarily wrong, it's just her opinion. Or the statement, you either love football or you aren't a man. This is a fallacy because it isn't leaving any room in between. You obviously don't have to love football to be a man, and many men have different opinions on football and sports, but that doesn't make any of them less of a man.
So one of our examples from World War II is this propaganda poster from Nazi Germany, and it's translated to victory or Bolshevism chaos. And the poster displays two very different images, one of a happy mother and child, and one that suggests a dark, miserable life under communism. The Nazi Party uses this sign to frighten German people into following and supporting Hitler. They knew that the Germans were scared of Bolshevism, so by juxtaposing it to Nazi victory, they made their side much more appealing. This is another example of the false dilemma fallacy because it suggests that there are only two solutions, victory or Bolshevism. With this logic, there can't be any other outcomes from the war, which is clearly false. Another example of this fallacy is this propaganda poster from America that says, when you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. Join a car sharing club today. This is a fallacy because it makes it seem as though you can't ride alone without riding with Hitler. The government released this propaganda poster to persuade American citizens to carpool in order to conserve resources needed for the war. This is, in a way, a fear tactic because it associates riding alone with Hitler, so it gives a negative connotation. The government provides only two choices for the American citizens, riding with Hitler or carpooling, when in reality there are countless other options. The US government knows that Americans are scared of Hitler, so they took advantage of that fear and used it to persuade them into doing things such as carpooling.
So we have another example, and this one is a quote, and it says, there are two ways to make a revolution. You can blast your enemies with machine guns until he acknowledges the superiority of those holding the machine guns. That is one way. Or you can transform the nation through a revolution of the spirit. So in this quote, said by Joseph Goebbels, he states that there are only two ways to transform a country. He was targeting Nazi soldiers with this statement because he was knowledgeable on the fact that they were going to listen to him closely. So Joseph was in charge of propaganda, so he knew how to talk to people and manipulate their thoughts. The first option he presented was to kill your enemies so they have a sense of respect and cower underneath your reign. And the second and final option was to heavily influence their thoughts and beliefs towards Nazis and force them to follow their ways. So this is the false dilemma fallacy because it is essentially stating there are only two ways to defeat their rivals. In addition to his statement about creating a new revolution, he also stated that there are only two possibilities, either the victory of the Aryan side or its annihilation and the victory of the Jews. He argued that either the Aryan people would come out on top with the Jews defeated or vice versa. Again, the intention behind this piece of propaganda was to influence the German citizens' perspective on this quote-unquote issue. He was able to convince his loyal followers to have the mindset that there were only two sides and they must pick one. They were either for them or against them, making them traitors if they were to disagree with any aspect of this.
Our final example is a quote from Adolf Hitler, and it said, "It was clear to me now, only one thing matters. A state or a world must fall, either ours or the other. We shall not fall, consequently the other must fall." This is a clear example of the black and white fallacy because it Our final example is a quote from Adolf Hitler. He said, "It was clear to me now only one thing matters. A state or a world must fall, either ours or the other. We shall not fall. Consequently, the other must fall." And this is a clear example of the black and white fallacy. This is from Adolf Hitler's Stalingrad speech in 1942, and it's directed towards the senior members of the Nazi Party. Hitler knew fully well that these senior members supported him, so he used this speech to connect with them even more. His intention was to inform his audience about current and prior events for the Nazis, and to motivate them for what was to come. His words, "A state or a world must now fall, either ours or the others," are in fact a false dilemma, fallacy, because it gives the audience the notion that one of two things must happen. The Axis must fall or the Allies must fall. He leaves no room for debate and no place to say that there are in fact other possibilities, so he is creating a black and white fallacy.